And
I'll share the
I
link out.
I've got to be disciplined at ending at 8:45
For sure.
because I've got stuff to do. So that's the plan for tonight.
Boom.
But for everyone, we started a great conversation. I wish it was live. Now we're live. Hello, everyone. But Tyler's name for his YouTube channel is Draw and Talk, and we were talking about how difficult it is to actually draw and talk at the same time. I'm impressed. There are a few people that can do it well. I can't even draw well, period. But drawing and talking at the same time would be pretty hard, I think.
Yeah, it's difficult. And also, if you want to do it, you want to be entertaining. And I don't know if it's the same with you, Charlie, but like,
yeah,
I'm so concentrated on that line, and if I try to make a joke, and I'm like, okay, crap, what was the goal here? So yeah, it was really cool marketing at the time, and then people were like, hey Tyler, there's a lot of talking, there's not a lot of drawing on your channel. I was like, okay guys, I'm gonna figure this
out. yeah. And I think most, like, for me, it would be umming and that kind of thing. Like, it's hard enough to keep my train of thought, let alone trying to do something creative at the same time. So
yeah.
But yeah,
you were talking about music. What kind of music? I listen to like lo-fi. It's just like beats. What do you listen to, Clint?
It kind of depends on what I'm writing. So listening while I'm writing, I actually like to pick out something that would be in the soundtrack. So that could be a little bit different things. For Fatal, I've actually been listening to Tool's newer album, their new album, because it has these great sci-fi sounds that just go on forever and ever and ever. And so I can kind of just lose myself in the mood. So I'll specifically pick out a few songs that work for the scene and kind of just listen to them on repeat. Others have been different. Death Cab for Cutie has been a good one for writing because, again, they have some songs that just go on forever and they're just kind of instrumental sometimes and repetitive, and I don't think too much about it. So
that's cool. I can't believe that you're able to write and listen to the songs with lyrics.
Yeah, it works. I just tune it out is what it comes down to.
Gotcha.
It couldn't be something I really want to critically listen to. Shane Davis, welcome to the stream.
Hey, how are you today?
Very good.
Hey, Shane. How you doing, Shane?
This is the big question. Can you draw and talk at the same time?
Sometimes, not really. It depends. If people are on stream with me, yes. If not, then no.
Yeah, doing it by yourself would be another added layer of difficulty. So I watch Brian Shearer. He streams usually during the day, and he does great just talking. And he'll have pauses of being quiet, but he'll like read the chat even and respond and be drawing. And I don't understand how that's possible, but.
Yeah, the chat throws me off. The chat throws me off for sure. Like, if that's why, I almost have to have somebody on with me, and I can't read chat and draw at the same time. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, now that we're getting warmed up here in the stream, welcome everyone that's come into the stream. This is our sponsor for today. I don't know what to call it. This is the book that we're promoting today. And the way I like to do it, I think that it's been more successful. This is the good direction to go. Is we'll pause between the conversation and have like commercial breaks, for the Indiegogo campaign. So Tyler, why don't you give us a pitch for Entity? We'll scroll through it a little bit, and we'll come back to this again and do some commercial breaks.
For sure. All right, guys. So this is my new book, Entity. It's a sci-fi graphic novel, 100 plus pages, $20 for the physical book, and free shipping if you're in the U.S. The story's tagline: her past is erased, her future is set, and her present is a lie. Camille, our main character, has been living in space for the last 3 years. She has zero memory of how she got there, who she is, or what her life was before she woke up. All she knows is this: Earth has been destroyed, and she is one of 50 other survivors who are part of something known as Project Genesis. Their goal is to meet up at a different planet and restart the human race. However, a man named Aaron Stryker enters her space station and lets her know that everything that she has known has been a lie. When she asks, who's been orchestrating it, he says, I don't know who it is or what it is, but it's something called the Entity, and we need to get out of here immediately. So for the next 100+ pages, you are going to be taking on an adventure with the looming question throughout every single page: who or what is the entity?
Cool. So you got 2 cover choices here.
Yeah.
Both covers are really cool.
Thanks. Yeah.
Are these? Did you do these?
I did So Joe Wong is the interior artist, and I did cover A, and then Luigi Terrell, the superstar artist from Rags, he did cover B.
Oh, cool. I love his art. It's every time I see something on Twitter that he posts, I'm just like, dang, yeah, he's good.
I know. I found it. I didn't know he had a YouTube channel, and I found it, and I just watched every video for like 3 hours today. And my boss was like, "Hey Tyler, like, what'd you get done today?" And I was like, "Oh man."
That's a little funny. Well, we'll get back and check this out as well. Let me post a link while we're at it. The link is in the description of the video. So yeah, do check it out, even if you're watching this later, and I'll post it in the chat. And moderators, if you are so kind as to spam that link, that helps us all out. So I kind of want to start here. Tyler, I'm interested in talking to you. We streamed once before.
Yeah.
And we sort of touched on the topic of the fact that you work at a publisher, but we didn't really get into that a little bit. And I just find that fascinating. So I don't know if I should. I sent you this earlier. Nerdrotic posted this. It's just a minute 13 sort of rant from an author that was published, and I'm not even sure which Hugo Awards. That's sci-fi, isn't it?
I have no idea.
Maybe sounds like I think it's sci-fi. Yeah. So
absolutely.
This is kind of on the topic. So
we'll sci-fi and fantasy.
Sci-fi and fantasy. Okay. Well, let's listen to this first, or we'll listen to a portion of it, and maybe we'll pause it. I don't know if we'll get in trouble or not. It's just kind of a rant here. I'm curious about your thoughts on it too.
Yeah.
Just say quickly, the Astounding Award is the award for the best new writer. But if I were talking to a new writer coming to the genre in 2020, I would tell them, well, if you are an author of color, you will very likely be paid only a fraction of the advance that white writers are getting. You will be pigeonholed, you will be miscategorized, you will be lumped in with other authors of color whose work doesn't remotely resemble yours. The chances are very high that you will be sexually harassed at conventions or the target of racist microaggressions, or very often just overt racism. People will mispronounce your name repeatedly and in public, even people who are on your publishing team. Your cover art will be racist. You'll have to push against that. And the way people talk about you and your literature will be tied to your identity and your personal trauma instead of the stories you're actually trying to tell. And if I had known all of that when I went into the industry, I don't know if I would have done it. So I think that the best way that we can celebrate new writers is to make this industry more welcoming.
Okay, that was heavy. There are a lot of heavy accusations that came out at the same time, and every time, that's the thing, is the word racist has been used and overused so much that my knee-jerk reaction is to say, like, no, it wasn't racist. I haven't seen the cover. I haven't, you know what I mean? But this is definitely not in the comic book industry, but you still see the same kinds of things. For anybody that's not familiar to advances, the world in publishing literature works a little bit different than it does in comics. If basically they buy your book, they pay you in advance if you're lucky, and then if you're really, really lucky, you'd get something paid after the advance, after you sell books. Tyler probably knows a little bit more about advances than I do, but I don't know. You want to explain? Did I explain that correctly?
Yeah. Well, first off, that's like the worst acceptance speech.
Right.
That's the worst acceptance speech.
Thank you. Fuck you.
This is somebody that just got an award.
I know.
I know.
Yeah, I can only imagine the person's like, "Oh my gosh, what happened?" I actually think I found her book, and she just did a short story. So like a lot to unpack in that video. First off, a lot of with her cover, she talked about how her cover was overtly racist. And I was dealing with this today, actually. We're going back and forth with an artist and our design team on creating the cover, and like, for the most part, our writers get a lot of say in the cover. That we give them a lot of say, but then ultimately it comes down to two teams at least in the publishing house I work at. It comes down to the design team, and it comes down to the sales team, and they will pick the cover. Even if the writer's like, I don't want this, they will pick the cover that they think will sell and win. And even if the art, like we told the writer today, like, listen, the cover you want, it's ugly, we're not going with it, we're using this cover, and she sold $200 today on pre-orders within 24 hours. So clearly with her, she won an award. It clearly worked. Publishers are her business. They need to make money. So she might think, well, the cover's racist. Well, we're trying to sell books.
Do you know what the name of her?
And it worked.
Do you know what the name of her book is? I'm curious because people are asking what her cover is.
Let me see if
I totally put you on the spot.
No, okay, so I looked at the wrong person, so it's a different person. I'm just looking right now all the awards right now. I'll find it.
Yeah, you're fine. Totally put you on the spot. I'd be interested to see. I actually don't even know what her name is. It's just posted here. But as a sort of general statement, getting published, getting a publishing deal, and getting an advance when you get published, especially for a first time, is insane. Like, very few writers are able to achieve that.
Yes.
So that's impressive. To say the least, but I don't know, like, does the publishing industry run across the same kind of problems that you see in comics and the book publishing industry?
Yeah, actually a lot. And I was actually watching a stream today that Shane was on. I think it was with the How to Draw Comics guys, and you were talking about how Marvel and DC, they kind of have this conundrum where if they keep these superstar artists, they might leave, so they're scared of keeping keeping on the really good artists because they're scared they're going to form like another Image thing. So they don't pay them as well, and then you get crappy. I don't know, you get crappy creatives then in the thing. We have this conversation all the time in the publishing house where I go, hey, well, how come all of our top authors are leaving? And they go, well, it's because we're not paying them enough. And so that problem happens, I think, throughout. And then they go to self-publishing, and you can see that with, the rise of crowdfunding. Superstar people are going to crowdfunding because they know they can make more money, and they don't have to deal with acceptance speeches. Like, the acceptance speech is so heavy.
Yeah, there's sort of it's the credibility versus getting paid. I mean, if you're really lucky, I guess you get both. But it seems like often I've seen so many examples of people that are very unhappy working in comics or working in publishing. Like, all I hear publicly are just gripes about it, unless you're perhaps one of those few superstars.
Something she said about the book advance, though, and I have a friend that has a multi-book YA book deal that's interesting, is there's two things she left out, and that's an agent and a counter negotiation for the book advance to be high. She totally avoided all of that. A lot of I've seen and heard certain book deals escalate just because there's a counter offer from, say, like Penguin to Scholastic or something like that. So like an agents get involved, or you can have an agent. So like some of those advances are scalable to those two factors, which he totally avoided.
Yeah. And if I should probably have done a little bit more research. I got to find out a little bit more about the book that won the award. But yeah, I guess under a general sense, what do you guys think? Is there an effort in publishing, intentional or unintentional, to keep creative people in their place, to keep them, and I'm not talking about necessarily from a race standpoint, but just to keep, creators in check?
I guess that depends. In the comic industry, for sure. I mean, like, that's been a thing always. I mean, since 2016, DC's had a policy of, holding people accountable for things they say on social media, that they can be fired for any type of work for hire agreement. and they're not even really employees of the company. So there's a little like a double standard there. I that now again, that goes back into the Image Comics thing. Like they're worried about creators walking out and forming a imprint in comics or something and taking their fan base with them. Wasn't there something years ago where Amazon was courting a bunch of pro books writers to come in and basically do new books through Amazon directly?
I know with Amazon directly, there's been, I think things have changed a little bit, but a few years ago, there were several authors that were just making millions of dollars. Like they were crushing. Hugh Howey's the big name I think of. He did the Wool series and several other books since. But yeah, there's definitely, for the people that got it to work for them, a massive incentive. Now, however, Amazon, it's just a different world. It's so difficult to do your own books, and I don't know if part of that is what Amazon, they're promoting books from publishers they know more. I'm not sure how it works.
You can actually make a crap ton of money if you can play out the Amazon algorithm as a self-published writer. There's a lot of different tricks, but there is with something like Amazon, you get a dumpster. It's like everyone's throwing out their crappy book, and you have to sift through it. In that private chat on here, I put the links to this. I found her in her book series. It's called her name is R.F. Kwong, I think, and her series is called The Poppy War.
I'm going to punch that in here. We'll look at
it. Is she Chinese? R.F. Kwong?
She is Chinese.
Is it Chinese? Were the publishers Japanese? Because in my experience, Chinese people are not fond of the Japanese.
They are not. Ask my grandma. Don't bring it up. Family dinners were ruined.
Holy smokes! Have you ever talked to an old Chinese person about the Japanese?
Yeah, man, it's my grandma.
Your grandma's Chinese. I was in that room. You think, take it easy, jeez.
There's some type of argument about some type of my wife's explained it to me because she's Chinese Singaporean, but it has something to do with like slaves, sex slaves or something, and some type of argument over that between the two countries when they were invading one another or something. It's rooted in something, but it has to do with the Japanese not owning up to it.
Yeah, and that and I don't know, Nanking. I don't know.
Yeah.
Woo! And I mean, but as a kid watching Bruce Lee movies, and then what's that one when they come in with that sign and the Japanese people bring in the sign that says "Sick Man of Asia," and I always thought this is the big insult, "Sick Man of Asia." How dare you? You have a cold.
Like there's got to be some cultural significance to that burn. So this is the cover, or one of the cover. It looks like there's at least 2 books so far in the series. This is one. She did say that they would give you a racist cover. You had to push against that. So I don't know if she considers this a racist cover, or if this is the result of pushing against a prior racist cover. I'm not sure.
Well,
look how racist that cover is.
Yeah.
We can break it down. There's a
I can't even look at it.
And if you look at if you read if you go, oh, that's racist, like that's racist against Asians, the tagline of the book of the award she won, it's Rin's story continues in this acclaimed sequel, an epic fantasy combining the history of 20th century China with a gripping world of gods and monsters. So if it's too Asian, well, it's Asian.
She wrote it
in China.
This is the strange thing, is like if you acknowledge that there are different cultures that look different, then it's seen as racism. You'd actually appreciate this, Tyler. So I went to Temple Square during Christmas time. Mm-hmm. If you've been there, they have all of these nativity scenes set up, and they're from all around the world. So they have one that is like it looks Asian, you know what I mean? And they all have that kind of look. And I was there, and there was some people standing next to us, and they're like, "Whoa, that's really racist." I'm just looking at it. I'm like, you don't understand the point. Like they're all symbolic of different countries. It was just like they're supposed to look It was just head scratching to see that kind of thing. But Vaughn is here. Vaughn, the question is it racist? I tried to put him on the spot as best I could. Oh, he might be cutting out.
Yeah.
I don't know. He said yeah. Okay. All right. We have confirmation from the expert.
How do you pronounce her name? Does anybody know how to pronounce her name? Because she was upset about her name being mispronounced.
Well, see, now I'm afraid to pronounce it.
Here's another thing, Clint, with the publishing is we publish 10 books a month. So I am working, if you think about it, every year with 120 new writers, plus the thousands of writers we've published in the years past. So, she's like, people are getting my name wrong. Well, sometimes it's your first time talking with this person. And you don't know how to pronounce their name. Yeah. Oh, just listening to that speech, Clint gave me the heebie-jeebies.
The word for me, the red flag, is microaggressions. Whenever I hear that word, I can't take anything they're saying seriously. Like, oh, is it racist? Maybe it was racist. I'll think about it. And then they use the word microaggression. I'm like, oh, you're an ideologue that believes in micro fantasies.
So that's weird to get upset about mispronouncing a name, especially if it's different. Vowels sometimes are translated different from country to country. But so we all are familiar with Bill Sienkiewicz, right? The artist.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
So his name, everybody mispronounces it, and a Polish person explained to me how to pronounce it, which I said to him, and he was like, "Thank you for pronouncing it correctly. It's Sienkiewicz." Nobody pronounces it right. So it's just one of those things where there's names from another part of the globe that they just don't, the vowels aren't pronounced the same. It's so to take offense to that and be, especially, of a heritage of another country. I mean, I pronounce my wife's name's hard to pronounce, so I have an English version. I can't see, now you put me on the spot of mispronouncing.
I'm sorry.
It's Yanzi, but to pronounce it in Mandarin or Chinese, it's Yinzi. So it's like a different type of whole fucking different thing.
Like river.
Yeah, it's just like a hiccup or something. It's like I can't do that on cue. Thank God she gave me the what she tells everybody to call her because she understands though that Western people can't pronounce every name under the sun, and
it's all intonation, right?
Mandarin, it's all I don't know. I mean, but Singapore is also a Western country, so they kind of embrace English as a thing. They don't they're not heavy with one or the other, so she might be a little bit more flexible than most. But that's weird that she really wanted to throw that out there that people have mispronounced her name. I just
gotta think that's gonna hurt her publishing chances in the future, but I don't know. I've been wrong before. Apparently you can call C.B. Cebulski to his face, publicly you can tell him he's racist, and he will hire you and give you a job. We have examples of that happening, but yeah, this kind of thing is just crazy to me.
And she won a Hugo Award. That's such a prestigious award, and her book beat out thousands and thousands of books that came out that year.
Yeah.
And her publisher, probably when they found that out, were like, oh my gosh, design team, you did it. Editorial team, you did it. Sales team, we did it. And then writer, you did it. And she's like, I hate you all.
Yeah. Immediately under.
If you think about it, she's a similar. I mean, I don't know if she's new to this country or not, or maybe her parents were or whatever. But to be part of the culture and she went to school here in America, or it's to hate on America and call everybody racist. That's assimilating into the culture that she's probably a part of if she's well schooled here.
Right. And she may have been born here. I don't know. I don't know her personally, but it's so cringy. I don't know. Yeah, it seems like it's part of assimilating into publishing. So there have been several examples as of late, but the whole I'm so sick of being told that I'm I'm racist or I'm in a hate group or whatever, so on and so on and so on. And part of that, I think, it's to make sure everyone knows that you're the good guy. It's I don't know, it's performative.
It is performative.
Yeah.
Yeah. Perfectly said.
Speaking of performative, that doesn't perform. Speaking of a great performance, how about that? Entity.
That segue was beautiful.
That was smooth.
That's it. My terrible segues are, I think, a trademark now. So I just have to keep doing it. Entity, a 114-page sci-fi graphic novel. Go ahead and give us tell us a little bit more about the campaign.
Yeah, so a lot of people were wondering yesterday when we launched, why is it like it says 5 days left? Did we miss out on something? I launched this on Kickstarter, and I did a 20-day Kickstarter campaign, and we raised like $3,000 on there, and then I was told, hey, you should throw it up on Indiegogo. So I said, okay, fine, but I only want to do a 7-day Indiegogo campaign. So on Sunday is going to be the last day to get this. And, why should you get this? Well, it's a 100+ page sci-fi graphic novel for $20, free shipping if you're in the US. And it's got beautiful art. I mean, I'm really proud of the work that Joe Wong and I did. He did the interiors, I did the colors. And we finished it. We made this book 3 years ago. It's 100% complete. Once I get the money, we give the files to the printer, we print it, we ship it to you. Bada bing, bada boom. You're gonna get your book. You're gonna get your book quick, and it's gonna be a quality book.
That's where I want to get eventually. Is just have the books ready. You just need to pay the printer and ship it. That's ideal. That's awesome. Nice. Cool. Well, check it out. Again, it's in the link in the description below, and also elsewhere. I guess we'll say that. Okay, so. Talking back sort of on publishing, I'm curious, Tyler, because we have you here, working for a publisher, does it seem like things are shifting and the publishers are afraid? Like in the comics industry, I just have to think that people are just fleeing. I see more and more pros leaving to doing their own thing.
Yeah.
Is that how the sentiment across the board, or maybe I'm biased?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. In fact, it's funny. It's sad. So someone who's a creative, and I want to be a writer and an artist, and I'm starting to get into novel writing. And you see the money that these people make. It's not a lot. It's very little. And then the ones who are successful, they realize, oh wait, if I were to self-publish my book, especially through Amazon, and do well, I'll make more money. And we had a battle a couple months ago with this writer because she decided not to publish with us for her third book, and we were like, oh, like please, and we're trying to beg our boss, like, hey, give her a better royalty deal because we're gonna lose her. She's one of our star writers. We're gonna lose her. And he's like, no, I'm not cutting her a deal. Tell her good luck on her own. We don't need her. And I'm like, no, we do need her, dude. And anyways, she leaves. Mm-hmm. She makes a crap ton of money on Amazon. And now he's like, oh, let's try to cut her a deal. And she goes, I can make more without you guys. So that's just, and that's, and that conversation's happening a lot with a bunch of our superstar writers. So right now, a lot of our writers are, I'm a first time writer and I like to publish. And we're like, we'll take you.
Yeah. So the effect then I see that's happening here, the sort of natural push is that you're publishing mediocre writers, like always. And for the comics industry too, and Shane, you could probably weigh in here. It just seems like because if you're really doing it well, if you got it figured out, you're incentivized to leave. If you're just good enough to be published that they can pay you, as little as possible, those are the people that they want in, right?
Yeah, I think that didn't that just happen with Scott Snyder? Did he make?
He just announced he's going to do more creator owned. Yeah,
that's kind of like the example, or a good example, or up to date example. Anyways. Yeah. It's weird because so the comic industry, at least mainstream comics, we were talking about it earlier. Even though it's a visual medium, it's been front loaded to be writer driven for like probably I don't know, like at least the last 5 years, and they went through double shipping, so they think they could put what they say is a top writer, whether they a lot of times they're kind of fairly new, so they put it's like the quickest career boost would be put on Batman, of course. So like somebody gets on Batman and then they say we're going to double ship it and it's going to be great. We have a big name writer on it that we're going to call big name. It's going to double ship, and over time the sales just go down. So it's obviously not a. To me, the data says it's not a written driven market. It's not like that type of thing, but they still think it is. So today I think they still think it is, and I don't know. It just doesn't seem to translate that way into sales. But some guys are, running off on, to do their own thing after being on these books for that long. It's weird for mainstream comics, because there's like a lot of proven writers that are like in the comic industry. Say somebody like Jim Starlin or something, right? Somebody who's had great success with Infinity Gauntlet and his own stuff, Dread Star and stuff. And it's not like the Marvel and DC are really utilizing him like they should. It's a really weird. They're always looking for the newest big writer, but if I had to guess, it's because eventually they're just looking for a cheaper writer to make. But they try to really make them big overnight. It's happening more at an escalated rate than it is by a big writer by proven success. It's like I'm not so sure Grant Morrison wouldn't write more books. I'm not sure if they actually give Grant all the jobs, even though he's probably one of the more acclaimed writers at DC right now. Or that was Green Lantern stuff has been coming out. So it's kind of strange. I've never really understood that, because you'll see like these shooting stars come up really quick, and then all of a sudden they're on Superman or Batman or something big at Marvel, but they did like something small right before. So all of a sudden they're the biggest thing out there, and it's kind of like sometimes the sales reflect that, and then sometimes they drop really quick. Like, I think Tom King's Batman stuff went up and down and through a bunch of stuff, and usually Batman sells around, we say in the industry it sells 100,000 copies whenever we make our numbers based off of that. But I think it normally sells around 90 or 80. And I've worked on Batman, and it's funny, Batman would sell, whether it was with Judd Winnick or Grant Morrison, new number one, they sold about the same. It didn't really matter, like, because it was Batman. But what's interesting with Tom King stuff and double shipping, it actually went down. I think it went into the 50s. So, and then it shot back up when the new guy, James Tinian came on. So it's almost like there's like, I don't even know what formula these guys run off of when they make these decisions, but you can see sales data, show support for one thing over another. It's the whole thing. That is interesting. That I've noticed that trend for sure a lot. I don't know if it's like they build hype or something, and hey, here's the new latest and greatest, hottest writer out there. It seems like they come every 6 months or every year maybe. There's just some writer that's like, oh, you got to check this out. They wrote this one book that's really good, and then they're at the top.
I'm not gonna say his name. You can go on my channel and find out. But I interviewed a Marvel writer. He didn't promote the video afterwards because he didn't like me. It was jacked up. It had something to do with eggs, and I was angry. So we were talking, and I had him on the show, and he's written X-Men, like Marvel X-Men, like such a huge property. And I'm after the show, I'm like, so like, you have any advice for me? He's like, oh man, like even when you make it, dude, like you still gotta, budget. I'm still eating just like ramen. I'm like, what? You're writing X-Men, and you're telling me that I gotta prepare to eat ramen? Like, I'm gonna stay on my day job and not eat ramen. And figure that out. It's sad.
And all the stories. So it's just weird recently because it's like airing of grievances from the comic book industry that it's been. First it was, hey, all these past sexual harassment things. Then it moved to like, well, now I don't know. It's been at a few things. So now lately though, it's been, hey, I didn't get paid jack, for years working in comics, and I don't know. It just feels like the airing of grievances.
Yeah,
and it makes it like, why would I want to get so to me, like being as a newer writer in comics, the one thing that the industry has is the ability to give you some clout. If you did go in there and you work on, Batman, or you work on whatever, even the smallest of titles, it gives you some clout, so that you can take that away and go do your own thing with it.
I'm surprised, Clint, that you didn't do a video on the hashtag. It was hashtag publishing paid me. It was a couple months ago, and it was this huge hashtag on Twitter, and it was novel writers saying this is what my the upfront cost that they give you.
The advance.
My advance, how much? And then someone said, well, can we get some comic book writers and artists? And they were like, hey, Boom paid me this, Marvel paid me this, DC paid me this. And for the artists, for the most part, I was like, okay, like for some of these, it can be really livable wage. Some of these can be really lucrative. And I looked at the writers and I was like, oh man, like you got to have a day job.
You're paid in clout when you're a writer.
Yeah.
Except for probably a few, but I'm surprised even all the time at writers that I would think like they're pretty well known. They have a day job, like they're not doing comics full time. I don't know. Writing's tough, but you could do it though. That's the thing, and I guess they take advantage of that. But you could do a day job and then write a comic series. So I guess that's what happens.
Go into advertising.
Yeah.
A writer. There's so much space for a good writer to just go into advertising and fire off stuff and test off what they think, and then they can even reuse it in other places.
Yeah.
Go into advertising. It's and you practice your craft.
Yeah.
For people that draw too. You just get an agent, and I don't know if writers need it. It's so hard for an artist. You draw a thing and then you show it to people and they say, oh, here it is. Thank you very much. Oh, I see what you can do.
Yeah.
For a writer, it's so much harder to demonstrate what you do. Because, what are you going to show? 10 awesome taglines that grab everybody's attention? That's not how anything works. How do you do it?
Yeah. With comics, I still haven't. I've had publishers ask me to send them pages of completed. I've done that. But for like in novel writing, it starts with a query letter, and that's the most maddening. That experience is just terrible. But there's this great blog called Query Shark. I don't know if you guys have heard of that, but it's this literary agent that goes over queries. You can submit your queries. She'll just tear them apart and tell you what's wrong with them. And every once in a while, she'll accept one. But it'll be just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them, and she's only got like 5 or 6 that she's actually accepted to be published. It's just for her to not to be published, for her to be the agent for, and that's just step one. That's I don't know. It's crazy. So that's why like my first 2 novels I just self-published, and Amazon was amazing. The first one, I should do a whole thing on this, but I sold insane numbers of books on the first one because it was 2011 and the algorithm, there weren't very many books. Something worked great. I sold like, I'm gonna pull up the exact numbers.
1 million bucks.
No, it was tens of thousands of copies.
Really?
Still amazing.
Beautiful.
Of ebooks, and then the sales died. And I made a second book, and it just tanked. It was so bad.
Do you think you'll go back and do it and try again?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, interesting.
What was the first book?
The first book was in 2011, and it wasn't very good. This was when it was sort of at the tail end of the big boom in, Kindle publishing, and Amanda Hawkins, and like I said, Hugh Howey, John Locke. All these guys were making tons of money because there was just everybody was into their Kindles and buying ebooks. Now it's just very different now. I don't
What was your book about?
My first book was a dystopia. I know people say that's a bad word. I like dystopias. I think they're cool. But it was about a society where guilt was outlawed. So you could do anything, you could be anything, and the only thing you couldn't do is feel guilty about it. That was
That's
sort of
awesome, dude.
Yeah.
How have we not talked about this?
It's not very good. It's not
Clint, you could do more. There's a group I'm part of called the 20 to 50K group. Dude, there's some people that are making millions of dollars on Kindle.
Yeah, the thing is it changed so much. So I used they used to have, I think they still do, but they have like where you can do a little promotion, like you can have the book for free.
Yeah.
Download or for 99 cents or whatever for a set period of time. And that's what I did on the first one. And so it was promoted to everybody. It sold like crazy. I was just shocked. And then when it stopped being free, it was still at like the bestseller list. And so people were buying it for money. So like I made a little bit of money, not a lot. I mean, we're talking like a 99-cent ebook that they take, 60% or whatever their cut is. So, but and then they just fell off. I could never duplicate the success that I had in the one, week period. So
Clint, we're going to duplicate it next because we're working on a dystopia novel. Well, whatever it is.
Yeah,
sort of a dystopia.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
It's dystopia.
Sci-fi. Yeah,
it's sci-fi dystopia, and the people in charge are, I don't know, their manners are so, I don't know, they're almost the mandarins with such exacting culture and proper manners that you got to be right.
True, actually.
Right?
Yeah, more I think about it, you're right. That planet is a dystopia society. Absolutely is.
I think in your Amazon bio, you even said, I love dystopias.
I do. I love dystopia. It was the comic book hut that made it a dirty word and said that it was, why a dystopia? I'm like, the best books are dystopias. Like, there's just a cool way to explore, like Animal Farm and, 1984. Like, there's so many great
Aldous Huxley.
Exactly. Yeah, I love that stuff.
I love in Brave New World how they can't even turn down a sexual partner because that shows it's the ultimate discrimination, right? You're who you choose, right? The ultimate discrimination. So it's wrong to say no to somebody.
Right.
That's perfect. I mean, come on. Thank you, Aldous. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's where this crazy shit leads.
I know. It's interesting. I want to say Fahrenheit 9/11, not Fahrenheit 9/11, the book. Fahrenheit, what's the number? 451, whatever. That book, amazing. I don't know. It lets you explore a little bit of human nature in a different way and sort of flip things on its head. And you can talk about politics without talking about really the politics of the day. It's just sort of like, what do people do? Anyway, I think it's cool. It sold really well. Dystopias were huge at the time too. So there's that. But I don't know. Amazon.
It might be huge right now. I mean, what are we living in right now?
We're in it.
I don't know. Yeah.
Especially people. Shane was on with the Australians today. They're not allowed to leave. Did you talk about this with them, Shane? They're not allowed to leave their houses by state mandate.
I didn't talk about it. I heard about it. I just didn't bring it up. I just thought it was a sore subject.
Yeah.
Wow. I was like, it might not be in good taste. Well, you were talking about comic writers and what they make. I've written a handful of books at DC, and the hardest part about what they make is how much trouble that you go through just to even get a one-shot approved. It's the approval process, and then that book lining up with everything else. I had to rewrite a New Gods one-shot a couple of times just because of another book they were doing somewhere else that was a Vertigo book. It wasn't even the same imprint.
You got your hands on the New Gods?
Yeah, I did like a an Orion type story that was a New Gods thing, like a Kirby tribute thing. But it was weird because they had a Mike Allred. They had like a Mike Allred bug story, which was one of the Forager character, and it had a total effect on my book, even though it had nothing to do with it. And I had to rewrite the whole thing even after it had been approved. So writing in comics, it's you can go through like a lot of junk just trying to get to your destination, like a lot of rewrites and stuff. Just, I mean, it's one thing if the rate, because the rate is per page plus royalties that are a little bit higher than the artist, but like it doesn't, like, there's a lot of work just even getting to where you can type it out. Like, I mean, it's just through approvals and, two editors, running down the company saying, well, I got a note from this editor over here. And, I don't know if prose books works anywhere like that. I kind of don't think so because of continuity stuff. I just don't think it's the same headaches. Plus, you probably have agents or an editor that's just one guy you're appeasing, not like 20.
How often do you write a bunch of stuff and it doesn't go?
Well, pitching on something with an editor, I've known people to do it for 6 months. So at that point, you've done a lot of work and you've not written anything that they can even vouch or pay you for, because they can only pay you per page. They really don't pay
you can spend all that time putting all that together and you get no payment.
Technically, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, now I'm coming from the world of advertising where the whole thing is they bring in armies of people to throw. Here come the writers, here come the artists, here come the art directors, and they're just throwing stuff against the wall, and the client is just paying everybody for every bit they do.
This was public knowledge eventually, but so like when DC did the New 52, a bunch of writers had been pitching for books that they thought they were going to get until they saw the solicitation for the book and they saw somebody else had it. Wow. And they all had NDAs, so they couldn't communicate with one another. Hey, I'm working on a Batman book. Oh, you're working on a Batman book. Then the other part of the problem with that became they weren't sure, did editorial ingest some of their ideas and to infuse it into the other person's book. So there was all this, like, everybody went nuts for a minute over it and everybody was outcrying, and then the momentum of the thing went on and it became dead news. But technically, think of that scenario that could happen to you, and you did all of that and threw some ideas out there, and in the end you didn't get the job. And I mean, think every job is probably that, to even get to where you can sit down and write it to where they can process a payment, because you're only paid per page. So until you're at the point where you can submit script, can you even get payment?
Yeah,
that doesn't sound like a job. That sounds like a contest.
Yeah. There's a lot of that
horrible.
Just to get to the. Well, I mean, I you guys were talking about it. It's not like a subject I would openly bring up, like, like the books I wrote. If I wasn't drawing them, I probably wouldn't even try going through the gambit of doing all that just to write, because the payment isn't flush. It's not. Now, once you become a top writer and you're given the book, it's a lot different, and some of those top writers will write a multitude of books. Like, they'll write 3 or 4 a month, and it can be a well-paying gig plus royalties. And what you don't know is some of these writers, which I didn't find out till recently, I'm talking like big top writers, they go to some of these cons and they sit down with a comic retailer or CGC and they just sign a bunch of books for probably like $50 a pop.
Wow.
So there's a lot of money outside of their industry just doing things like that, like signing, a case of books for a retailer and them, being CGC'd and them doing the resale and them taking them money for their signature. And of course, they're, this would be something they'll be doing like maybe in their hotel room or something, not on the floor of the con.
Yeah, with writing too, one thing with like writing novels, and I know I've got a lot of viewers that write novels. They're not doing comics, but that's one of those things too, where you have to put forth this massive time investment, and it kind of feels like really you're like you said, Charlie, you're trying to win a contest, unless you've already had like the first book published or something. That's a big step up, but the fastest. I wrote my second novel in 14 months, and that was like writing every single day. It was just so much effort, and that thing didn't even sell, even though I think it's a much better book than my first one. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, it's tough. It's kind of sad, but that's why crowdfunding's so great.
The second one is better than the first one, and nobody cared.
Yeah, I just couldn't get
Is that
it
what
to
you're saying?
people. Yeah, the second, yeah, the second one is
That's hard because you do that with anything. You might spend like a long time making this really nice quality YouTube video, and it gets terrible views, and then you pull out one really quick, and it gets a ton of views. And you're like, but I tried so hard on that last one, guys.
Yeah, it matters much less. It's kind of funny. Yeah, that's a whole other thing. I'm sharing a picture now. This is from Charlie. This is from Fatal. Which so is this some of the tweaking that you did? I think the fist. Is this the different fist?
Yeah, I that's if you go, I just sent you two more. If you go to the second one I sent you, that's the 2-page spread. That is page 15 and 16. And then and then I sent you details from the 2 pages. Cool, yeah. That's the 2-page spread. What's that page? 13 and 14.
Wow.
Jolly Snowman's and Clint Stoker, black and white pages.
Cool, man.
The top left portion, that's page 13, where the lady starts coming down the steps, and then there's the close-up of the small of her back and maybe a little bit of her rear as she comes down the steps. And then she turns right and looks over the room, and she comes down the steps, and there's that guy, Clint, who, what did he do? He called
for help. But
he called for help.
Spoil too much, but yeah, I've got more. I wrote a script for the trailer for this, and I did it from his perspective. I sent it to Vaughn. I want to get Vaughn's opinion, but I think it's kind of cool. Like his perspective would be really interesting.
Then,
this is cool.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say this is cool.
Page. Look at those 4 cool guys. The third one I sent you is the detail from the top of page 13, 14, where the guy's sort of begging for mercy. There it is. And that lady extends her robes and cloaks, and the serpents all come slithering out. And then down on the bottom left, that's panel 2 on that page, is they start to surround him. Then in the middle, they're swirling around him as he's starting to realize, oh no, what is happening? Because he doesn't even know. He thought he was doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And
just trying to help.
Yeah. I thought that was my job. A real tyrant, right? A real tyrant doesn't let you know when you're actually. They keep you off balance with. This is. I mean, was it Stalin used to randomly kill people, or Saddam Hussein used to randomly kill people?
Yeah.
Whether they did a good job or not, because that's a real tyrant. You don't even if you do something well, then you're punished for it. So
right. Yeah, I know Stalin was like, if somebody was getting like one of his officials was looked upon favorably, they had like a high approval rating or something, it was too high for him, it'd be like, yeah, okay, we're finished here. Very cool stuff. But wow, dang, it's been an hour. I said I was going to be disciplined, and I just had fun talking to you guys. Check out Fatal. We're going to go back here to Entity. I saw a question for me. Let's see. Here we go. Here's a question. Clint, how far do you plan to produce the book before you start the campaign? It's been different every single time, but I'm still kind of new at this, really. I think it's going to take a few years to have like a pipeline solidified. But I mean, me and Charlie were talking about this in sort of the early stages. Probably genuinely began earlier with Charlie, because he started just drawing scenes from this. But last year, I think about a year ago or earlier, we were talking about this, wasn't it?
right around last time I was at the beach when we started hatching the names and what it was, and I was at a beach house in September, sort of saying, what would we call it? I was still calling him Clint. I was calling him Flint or Clint. And
it's like, we can't name him after me. Yeah.
Can't we just call him Clint? No.
Yeah.
So and it was around then I was drawing a couple of these scenes where he's hanging on and that kind of stuff, and yeah, and it was only months and months later that we tried to figure out what those scenes were. So yeah, it takes a while, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'd say the shortest one, like the Clint Stoker's Dracula book, I thought was a fun joke, but I get asked about it all the time. So I'm like, okay, we're gonna do it. But I was taking a shower a couple weeks ago and I had a great idea for it. It's sort of on the back burner now, but like I'm gonna do that book. That's the plan. So that'll probably be the shortest turnaround time from conception to, completing it. But yeah, I think it just depends on the book. So
yes,
all right, yeah. Let's talk about Entity one more time, and then we'll close off the stream. Tyler, give us a pitch.
Yeah, guys. Well, one, thanks, Clint, Charlie, and Shane for allowing me into you guys' little group here and talking about my book. Really appreciate it. My book that I'm currently crowdfunding, it's Entity, a 114-page sci-fi graphic novel. We funded this last month on Kickstarter, and now I'm doing a Blitz 7-day campaign on Indiegogo. If you need to know, has Tyler ever put out a book? All my books are graphic novels, and I've fulfilled 5 campaigns before. Follow Camille and Aaron Stryker as they try to figure out their lost memories. Why has humanity been destroyed? Who's the entity? This being, I guess, who's controlling everything. The book is 100 pages, like I said, $20, free shipping. The art is gorgeous. I really like Joe Wong's interior art. I colored it, and it's a silly goose time. We had a silly goose time making this book. It was fun. Going through it. I'm going through it right now, relettering it. I'm having a blast. It's 100% complete. So once the funding's over and I get the money, we're sending these files straight to the printer, and we're gonna get them to you. And you can get the main cover drawn by me, or you can get the cover B, which is a limited variant by Luigi Terrell, the artist from Rags.
Very cool. Looks great. I put it in the link in the description in this video if you're watching it, live or after the fact. We appreciate you watching the stream. Thanks for coming on the stream, guys. Always great to talk to you. And we'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.
Nice to meet you, Tyler. Good to talk to you.